Let's start Step 4. At Step 3, we made the layout of the main activity and the page transition to the other pages. At this step, we're going to develop the page layout to add a new student. We're going to edit the activity_add_student.xml file and add input fields and a scroll view. And we are going to use different input types for each input field. Let's open Android Studio. Let's open the activity_add_student.xml file. We already created the file before and saved under the layout folder. As you can see, by default, the root layout is relative layout. We can keep this layout, but let's try a different layout. I'll change it to linear layout this time. Let's keep the paddings. The linear layout is the layout that displays the children elements either vertically or horizontally. So we need to set the orientation attribute in this file. Let's set it vertical. Next, let's add labels and input fields to add name, telephone, and email. So use the TextView tag for a label and set the width value match_parent and the height wrap_content. And the text to show on the page is name. Let's now add the text field for the name, so type EditText and set up the width and height. We need to get this element to get a value later, so add ID and name it add_name. Now we set a label and an input text field. We can add others in the same way, so let's copy and paste it. The second one is for email, so change the text to email and change the ID too. Let's copy and paste it again for the telephone number. Change the text and ID again to phone number. Under the input fields, we need to add a button to submit, so add button tag and set width and height. Again, we need to add ID to handle this button, so let's name it as add_btn. And the button label text will be add. So as you can imagine, after inputting name, email, and a telephone number, users click this add button to add them to a database. Let's run it and see how it looks so far. Click this run button. So we got the main page here. What we just made is for the add activity page. So on this page, we need to click the floating button at the bottom to move to the page. Let's click it then. It looks exactly what we planned for. Here we can input name, email, and phone number. And underneath, we have the add button here. You probably think it looks all right now. Yes, it looks okay and we can use it. However, there are a few more detail settings to make things work better. For instance, here in the name text field, a user can put some text in by using the bottom keyboard. However, the problem here is if the user pushes the Enter key. As you can see, there will be line breaks that keep going down. In some case, we need line breaks, but in this case, like name, email, or telephone, normally one line would be enough. Line breaking may look like an error. So, we need more settings to avoid this line breaking. And in case of email, if a user puts the focus on the input field, then the keyboard will slide up from the bottom. See here, there is no @ button in the default keyboard. So the user has to change keyword types to find the @ button. Therefore, when the email input field gets a focus, the keyboard with the @ button shows up. It would be a big help for users. The telephone input has the same issue. For telephone number, we need a keyboard with numbers. If so, it would be much easier for a user to input a phone number. So let's add more detail settings to improve the input fields. We will add input type attributes to limit line breaking and display the @ button or numbers. At the Names Edit Text tag, let's add the input type attribute and set value as text. Only with this setting we can avoid the line breaking. Next, at the Emails Edit Text tag, add the input type with value of text email address. It will set the keyboard with the @ button. Lastly, at the phone input, add the input type and set it by phone, then a number keyboard will slide up. Let's run it again. We've got the input page here. Let's click the name input field. Like before, the keyboard shows up. But can you see the enter key here? No, simply there is no enter key here. And if you click this arrow button, the focus goes to the next input field. And for the email input, as you can see, at the bottom, there is the @ button here, so a user can input email address without changing keyboards. And let's move to the phone number input. The number keyboard shows up so easily you can punch in a phone number. Like this, adding attributes would improve user convenience. But it is not done yet. There is one more thing that I'd like to add for a user. Imagine if a user closes the keyboard. This button stays in the middle. And if the keyboard slides up, still the button is sitting here. But if the mobile screen's height is shorter than this emulator and the keyboard slides up, the keyboard will cover over the button or even up to input fields. As a result, the user can't push the button or input fields, or the user has to close the keyboard to use them. Moreover, in case that we have more input fields in this page, the keyboard definitely covers over the Add button even though we have a long screen. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to keep the Add button at the bottom of the screen, whether we have the keyboard or not, and no matter how many input fields we have. And by default on Android app, there is no scroll bar if we have more input fields, so those overflow the screen. Because we only have 3 items now, the scrolling is not necessary, but let's add the scroll bar too, to learn how it works. There is a view called ScrollView that wraps contents with a scroll bar. So add the scroll view and set width by match_parent and height by 0 dp. If the height is 0 dp itself, the view doesn't show up, so we need to add the weight attribute. Set it by 1, which means the view takes all vertical space. And cut off the close tag of ScrollView and move it right before the button tag. Let's take a look. The page will show the items vertically. At first the scroll view, and then the button. Because the scroll view takes the rest of all vertical space, no matter how short the screen is, or whether we have the keyboard or not, button will show at the bottom of the screen. And now this scroll view is wrapping the all view tags, and if we run it now, there will be a runtime error because a scroll view must have only one child object. So we need to wrap all the items into one object. Let's add another linear layout into the scroll view and set width and height. Of course, we need to set the orient attribute for scroll view, so set it as vertical. And cut off the close tag of linear layout and move it just before the close tag of the scroll view. Let's take a look again. So, there is the scroll view followed by the button. In the scroll view, there is one linear view wrapping all text views and edit views. There will be a scroll bar appearing along the scroll view. Let's run it again. As you can see, when the keyboard is up, the Add button is staying just above the keyboard. If we close the keyboard down, the button goes down to the bottom. We have only 3 items here now, but even if we have too many items so that the item goes over the screen, the Add button will still stay here at the bottom. And lastly, as you can see here, the Input Items panel can be scrolled like this. This is a wrap today. Thank you. I hope you enjoy the video and wish to see you at the next video. Goodbye.